Thanks for joining me for this edition of the Church Security Answer Man. I am so glad that you're joining me today. We have a question from a community viewer that we're going to talk about today. So that question from Brian Sasser, and thank you, Brian, for this question. Do you have any video about handling disruptive children in a service and passive parents that do nothing to correct the behavior? At what point do you ask them to take the child out? They can't, Brian says he can't find a whole lot on the subject. So let's talk about that just a little bit. What can we do in that situation? And I've got a few suggestions for you. They're my opinions, and it would be good to have a discussion with your priest or pastor or other church leadership, maybe, if you have any doubts. In fact, that's where my discussion points today come from, because coincidentally enough, we just had this discussion with our pastor here just a few weeks ago. So I just want to interrupt for just a second here to remind you that we do have formal church security training for you other volunteers. We have the armed church security, we have the unarmed basic certificate, and we have a leading church safety and security program course. You can find the link in the description, or you can run over to churchsecurityanswerman.com to find more information. Here's the discussion that we need to have, I think, that we need to discuss and come to conclusions on. How long, first of all, do we wait for the parent to react and do something? When we have a screaming child, an out-of-control kid in the service, how do we deal with that, or what do we do? And it could even be somewhere where it's disrupting the service. I know in our church, there's a couple of hallways and the lobby area that during the actual sermon, that if there's a child out there screaming, it could be disruptive all the way into the service. So in any of those areas, how long do we wait for that before we begin to approach? And I don't think we wait too long. I think it's, I've got in here 20 to 30 seconds. And here's why I say that is because I think most parents who are going to do something will do something by then. I've seen it where as soon as I'm starting to get nervous because I hear a child screaming in the auditorium, it's within just a few seconds of me starting to get nervous. So somewhere around 15, 20 seconds that I see that parent beginning to bring their child out of the service. So I think 20 to 30 seconds is ample time if the child's not calming down or the parent's not coming out. But it's something good for you and your team or your leadership to discuss. How long do we wait? I don't think we wait very long, because remember, it's disrupting the whole service. It's disrupting the train of thought for your pastor, your priest, whoever's up on the platform doing the lecture, doing the sermon. They're being disrupted as well. So if it's during music time, it's a little different story, but it's still being disruptive to the service. And I would think that our objective is to be able to help maintain that environment where people can learn and people can hear your message. So very important. So, then I suggest after that 20 to 30 seconds, if we don't see any movement, that we approach the parent. And I think we need to have a smile. We need to have balance. It may be a bit stressful, so make sure that we get a good smile on our face. And, we're going out in front of people in the middle of the service. And so it can be a bit stressful for both sides. And then we can ask that parent, how can we help? Can I help you? How can I help? Something along those lines. I think the help word is important. And this is where we had our own discussion about it, because I'm more along the lines of, can you go out in the lobby with me? Let's just get this out of here. And the pastor, rightfully so, cautioned me on, we need to be a little bit more kind and a little bit more gentler than just trying to take the parent out right away. We need to first give them a chance and ask them if we can help them. And I think that's a great suggestion. And so use that word and have that attitude. And if the parent is still not doing anything or not moving, and I think most parents at that point are going to be doing something, they're going to be wanting to leave because you're coming in, and they've got to know now that there's a lot of attention directed towards them throughout the auditorium, probably, or throughout your sanctuary. And so I would think most parents are going to be reacting at that point. If they still are not reacting, then I think that, if it's not within a few more seconds of you getting there, if they're not doing something, then I think they should be asked to move to a family room or to a lobby somewhere else outside of the auditorium. And probably, like we just mentioned before, in some of your areas, probably the lobby is still going to be within hearing of the auditorium. It could be disruptive if the child is screaming. So do you have some place that you can take them or ask them to go, maybe where they can still see the service? We have a couple of different rooms. We have a family room and we have a coffee area that are plenty distance away from the auditorium, that they should not be an interruption to the service any longer. So if they're not willing to do that, then we've got to escalate that a little bit and then begin to ask them, could you go with me? Can you come with me to the family room? Those kind of things. And I'm sure by then parents are going to be compliant with you, because there's a lot of attention on them and they know they're disrupting the service at that point. If they get so used to their kids screaming that they don't know up to that point, they're going to know at that point. And so, hey, leave me a comment down below if you have any other thoughts on this. And, of course, if the parents don't comply, which I can't imagine that the parents aren't going to do something at that point, then it just becomes a service interruption if they're not willing to move. And then you have to have a discussion about calling the police or what you're going to do next. I just can't imagine a parent allowing it to get to that point, though, if they're being disruptive. So, hey, take a look at this video right here. I think this will help you just a little bit more with the studies and the things that you're looking for here with church security.